Welcome to Whispers of Forbidden Love, where hearts collide and secrets shimmer in enchanted worlds. Tonight we unveil the affair in the Shadow Realm, a tale of desire, deception, and a dreamscape where love could cost everything. Can passion survive a truth too dark to face? Settle in, subscribe, and let the shadows draw you in. In the city of Calyren, where the sky gleamed with stars and sails whispered in the harbor wind, Livia lived a life shaped by order. She was 27, married to a wealthy merchant named Calyren. Their home was large but quiet, filled with the scent of ledgers, spices, and unspoken thoughts. Calyren was kind. He gave her comfort, not chaos. Their life was steady, safe. But safe could be lonely. Each morning, Livia walked the same cobbled streets, browsed the same market stalls, and greeted the same neighbors. Her heart was a gentle rhythm of duty, not desire. She told herself this was enough, a good life, a respectful husband. But in the silence of the night, she sometimes dreamt of something else, something she couldn't name. Something more. She never dared speak it aloud. She wouldn't betray Calyren. She had made her vows. She had everything a woman could want. And yet, deep inside, a quiet ache lived, a question she never dared answer. Then, one misty evening, as silver fog rolled off the harbor and the lanterns glowed like floating stars, she saw him. He stood in the marketplace, his cloak catching the breeze. He looked like a story, not a man. Tall, with tawny hair pulled back, and eyes that shimmered like twilight, deep violet, flecked with silver. His name was Rune. He wasn't a merchant. He wasn't a sailor. He was something else entirely, and in that moment, the ache in Livia's chest flared into a flame. Rune's market stall was different from the others. There were no baskets of fruit or bolts of fabric. Instead, strange items glowed on velvet cloth, crystals that pulsed with light, vials of shifting colors, and mirrors that reflected other skies. Livia stood a few steps away, pretending to examine a tray of spices. But her eyes kept drifting back to him. He bartered with a customer, his voice calm and smooth. When he laughed, it was low and rich, like a song from a forgotten place. The market noise faded around her. She couldn't look away. Then, he looked at her. Their eyes met. Livia felt the breath catch in her throat. She turned quickly, heat rising in her cheeks. She wasn't a girl anymore. She was a wife. This was foolish, dangerous. Still, the next day, she found herself back at the market. And the day after that. Each time, she walked by Rune's stall. Each time he smiled. They didn't speak, at first. Her excuses felt thin. She asked about a crystal one day, a silver comb the next. Rune answered with a knowing smile and words that made her stomach flutter. Calyren noticed her brighter moods. He asked if she enjoyed the market, if she'd found anything interesting. She smiled, touched his arm, said it was just the fresh air, but the truth burned beneath her skin. She began to wake early, just to be ready before Rune arrived. Her shawl was chosen with care. Her hair was tied differently. She hated herself for the effort, yet couldn't stop. Rune was aflame, and she was drifting closer. And one evening, when the city was wrapped in fog and the lanterns cast long shadows, Rune spoke words that would change everything. "You keep coming back," he said softly. "What is it you're searching for, Livia?" She couldn't answer, but her silence said it all. The fog thickened around them, muffling the sounds of the market. Rune's stall was half-packed, his strange artifacts glowing faintly in the lantern light. Livia lingered, pretending to admire, a glass orb swirling with mist. "You never answered," Rune said, stepping closer. "What is it you're searching for?" She looked down, her fingers brushing the orb. "Maybe I don't know." His voice lowered. "Or maybe you're afraid to say it." She met his eyes, deep violet, flecked with silver, as if the stars themselves had bled into them. Her heart pounded. "Are these real?" she asked, nodding toward the items on his table. "They're real in ways that matter," he said, choosing a small obsidian stone from a velvet pouch. This one, for example. It's called a dream key. Livia raised a brow. What does it do? It opens a door to the shadow realm, he said. A place between sleep and magic. A realm where the soul speaks and the world listens. She laughed softly, nervously. Sounds like a bedtime tale. Rune smiled. Bedtime tales come from truth. He placed the dream key in her hand, his fingers warm against hers. Would you like to see it? The stone pulsed in her palm, its surface swirling with shadows. I can't, she whispered. I'm married. I know, he said gently. And I've done nothing but speak truth to you. But if your heart aches for something more, even once, come find me. Tonight. He took the stone back, his touch lingering. Then he turned and vanished into the mist, his cloak trailing behind like a shadow. Livia stood frozen, the world around her still moving. Voices, footsteps, laughter, all distant. She should walk away. She should forget him. But her heart was already choosing. The moon never rose that night. Calyren lay under a shroud of stars, the harbor whispering secrets with every tide. Livia sat. By her window, the dream key Rune had given her now resting in her palm. She hadn't told Gavrin. He'd come home early, kissed her cheek, spoken of merchant deals and ship arrivals. She'd nodded, smiled, played the part. But her mind wandered, always, back to the shadow in the market, to the man who looked at her as if he already knew every truth she buried. She stood slowly, her shawl wrapped tight, and left her sleeping husband without a word. The streets were nearly empty, save for a few late carts and flickering lamps. Her steps took her down winding alleys, past painted doors and hushed corners, until she found Rune waiting near the ivy-covered gate of an abandoned courtyard. You came? He said, no surprise in his voice. I shouldn't have. But you did? He stepped aside, and she entered. The courtyard was quiet, except for the soft rustle of leaves. Rune held out the dream key. Once you use this, things won't be the same. She hesitated. What will I see there? Yourself, he said. Unfiltered, unchained. The words trembled through her. She looked at the stone, dark as night, swirling with lightless storms, and placed it against her chest. Rune guided her hand. Close your eyes. She did. Think of me. She did. A warmth spread through her veins, followed by a rush, like falling without fear, and the world fell away. When she opened her eyes, the sky above was not Calyren's. It was twilight spun in silver threads. Stars shimmered like suspended teardrops, and a path of glowing mist unrolled beneath her feet. Rune stood beside her, his eyes glowing with gentle power. Welcome to the Shadow Realm, he whispered, and Livia took her first step into a world made of dreams and desire. Livia moved forward, her feet barely touching the ground. The mist curled around her ankles like silk, warm and alive. Trees unlike any she'd seen stretched upward, silver bark, leaves like translucent crystal. The air itself shimmered, thick with the scent of wild jasmine and something deeper, more intoxicating. Is this real? She asked. Rune walked beside her, his presence steady, calm. Real enough. The Shadow Realm doesn't follow the rules of your world. It reflects you, your wants, your fears, your choices. Livia touched a flower blooming at her, sighed. It opened beneath her fingers, releasing a sigh that sounded almost like her name. And what does it show you? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Things I've tried to forget. They walked in silence for a time. The path shifted beneath them, forming bridges over starlit rivers, then turning to floating steps suspended in space. Everything was beautiful, yet unsettling, as if too much beauty could unravel if looked at too closely. Finally, Livia turned. To him. Why me? Rune stopped. His eyes, twin pools of violet and silver, searched her face. Because you see more than what the world tells you to see. You feel trapped and you're too loyal to admit it. You don't want freedom. You ache for it. Her breath caught. He was right. She hadn't spoken it aloud, but it was there. The truth she hid even from herself. I'm married, she whispered, not as a reminder but a confession. And, yet you're here, he replied. She looked away, ashamed, but Rune stepped closer, gently tilting her chin back to meet his gaze. You haven't betrayed him, he said softly. Not yet. But you're on the edge, Livia. The Shadow Realm responds to longing. That's why it opened to you. The mist thickened around them, glowing faintly pink. And if I keep walking? She asked. Rune's voice dropped to a whisper. Then you'll learn who you really are. The path beneath them shifted once more, this time leading through a grove where the trees leaned inward, forming a living cathedral of glowing branches. Each step echoed like a promise, the air charged with unspoken things. Livia's pulse danced, beneath her skin. Her heart beat faster, not with fear, but anticipation. Rune stopped at the heart of the grove, where a stone pool reflected the star-laced sky. He knelt beside it and dipped his fingers into the water. The surface rippled, then shifted to show her face, not as she was, but as she could be. Her eyes were alive with purpose, her smile fearless. She didn't look like a merchant's wife. She looked like a woman reborn. What is this? She asked, breathless. A vision, he said. The realm shows you not what is, but what might be. She dropped to her knees beside him, staring at her reflection. Her image shimmered, then shifted again, this time revealing Rune behind her, his arms around her waist, his lips at her neck. She pulled away, gasping. This place, it knows things I've never said aloud. Rune's hand found hers. It knows your heart. For a long moment, they said nothing. The stars above pulsed gently, their light bathing the grove in a silvery glow. Then Livia leaned in, her lips parting. Tell me, she said, what would happen if I stayed here, with you? Rune didn't answer with words. Instead, he reached for her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. And then slowly, he kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like a secret whispered between breaths. But as her arms found his shoulders, as their bodies drew together, the kiss deepened. The air around them warmed and the trees shivered in delight. Even the stars seemed to lean closer. When they parted, her world had changed. I don't know what this is, Livia whispered, but I don't want it to end. Rune's voice was low. Then don't let it. But far beyond the grove, shadows stirred. The realm had awakened, and it had started to take notice. They walked hand in hand, the grove behind them glowing dimly as if reluctant to let them go. The path ahead darkened, though not with fear. It was quiet, reflective, as if the realm itself was allowing them a moment of peace. Livia felt lighter. The weight of her marriage, her duty, the quiet ache of a life half-lived. They all faded, under Rune's touch. She glanced at him, studying his profile. Strong, but not hardened. There was sorrow in his eyes, like a man who had carried too many secrets too long. Rune, she said. Why me? He looked at her, surprised. There must have been others, she continued. Why did you bring me here? His grip on her hand tightened slightly, as if grounding himself. Because when I saw you, I knew you weren't just passing through. You were looking for something, or maybe, he added softly, someone. She swallowed. You saw that in just a glance? I've lived too long in lies not to recognize truth when it flickers. They came to a ridge where the realm opened below them, an ocean of mist and stars churning like liquid light. Far across it, mountains floated in the sky impossibly high, each glowing with a different hue. Is that real? she asked. In the shadow realm, he said, everything is real, especially the things you try to forget. They sat on the edge, silence stretching between them. Then Livia spoke. I dreamed of leaving once, before Gavrin, before duty. I thought I'd travel the world, live in a lighthouse, write poetry no one would read. But I buried that dream. Rune smiled gently. Then let's unearth it. She looked at him, heart thudding. And if I'm too afraid? Then I'll be brave enough for both of us, he said. The stars shifted above them like a breath held in anticipation. And somewhere, deep within the realm, something began to stir. Something watching, something waiting. The path turned into a slope, gentle at first, then curving steeply toward a glade bathed in soft violet light. At the center stood a single tree, enormous, ancient, its bark carved with glowing symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Its leaves shimmered gold and silver, drifting without wind. Rune slowed as they approached. This is the memory tree, he whispered. Livia looked up, awed. It's beautiful. It shows what the heart remembers most deeply, he said. Not just memories, truths you may have buried. It doesn't lie. A tremor ran through her. Will it show me something I'm not ready for? Rune stepped beside her, his voice steady. It only reveals what already lives inside you. She hesitated, then placed her hand on the tree. The bark was warm beneath her fingers, almost breathing. Light flared from the symbol she touched, and suddenly, she was somewhere else. A child. Again, standing on her father's ship, wind in her hair, dreaming of faraway lands. Then older, her mother's voice echoing, We don't chase dreams, Livia. We survive. Then her wedding day, Gavrin's hand in hers, steady and calm as she smiled through the uncertainty. And then Rune. That first glance at the market, the pull she couldn't explain. The visions faded and she gasped, stumbling back. Are you all right? Rune asked, catching her. She nodded slowly. It showed me everything, not just my choices, but why I made them. He looked at her gently. And what did you see? That I was lonely long before I met you, she whispered. And that you woke something I thought I'd lost. Rune's expression tightened. Then I'm sorry. She looked up, surprised. Why? Because love in the shadow realm, he said softly, never comes without a cost. From the branches above, a single silver leaf drifted down, landing between them. It blackened instantly. The tree had heard, and it had judged. The air around the memory tree grew colder, the violet glow dimming to dusk. Livia clutched Rune's arm as shadows pooled at the edges of the glade. I don't like this, she whispered. Rune stepped in front of her, his hand resting on the hilt of a blade she hadn't noticed before. The tree has stirred the realm. It reacts to truth and to guilt. From the darkness came voices, whispered, familiar. Livia. She froze. The voice was Gavrin's. A shape formed beyond the glade. A mirage, a phantom, a memory made flesh. Gavrin stood in the shadows, his eyes full of sorrow, not anger. Behind him, flickering visions. Her wedding, their quiet dinners, the way he always looked at her as if she were enough. Why? The phantom asked. Livia's chest tightened. It's not real, she said aloud. It's just the realm playing tricks. Rune touched her hand gently. It's real in the way dreams are. It shows what you fear most, what you love most, and what you've done. The phantom Gavrin turned to ash, crumbling into the wind. The silence that followed was heavier than words. I never meant to hurt him, Livia said softly, guilt threading her voice. I know, Rune said. But choices echo here. The realm feeds on the torn edges of the heart. Suddenly a second voice rose, female, furious. You don't belong to him! A woman stepped from the shadows. Livia didn't recognize her. Dark-haired, eyes blazing, dressed in royal black and crimson, Rune's face went pale. Arisa, your bride? Livia asked, a chill running down her spine. My intended, Rune said, voice tight. Before I fled the kingdom. Before I found you. Arisa stepped forward, the realm warping around her like heat. You were mine, Rune. You think you can love another and not pay? The glade shook as the memory tree groaned, shedding more blackened leaves. The past was catching up, and it was angry. Livia's breath caught as Arisa's gaze locked on hers. There was no hatred in it, only a cold, possessive fury. The fury of a woman who had been promised everything and lost it to a stranger. Leave her out of this, Rune said, stepping between them. This is between you and me. Arisa laughed, a sound sharp as breaking glass. There is no you and me anymore, Rune. You abandoned your title, your duty, your kingdom, and me. Livia stood firm beside him. He made a choice, one that doesn't belong to you anymore. Arisa's eyes narrowed. And what of your choices, mortal? Do you think this realm won't punish you for your betrayal? Livia flinched. The words stung because they were true. Rune's voice grew rough. What are you doing here, Arisa? You shouldn't be able to enter the shadow realm. I followed your emotions, she said, stepping closer. They left a trail like fire. You woke the old magic. You made this realm stir. Livia felt it too. The shadow realm was more alive now. The ground throbbed beneath her feet like a heartbeat. The sky overhead shimmered with dark stars. You want to destroy us? Rune asked. I want balance, Arisa said. You tore a hole in the weave of fate when you brought her here. The realm demands a sacrifice to restore it. Wind picked up, spinning leaves around them. Livia's voice was barely a whisper. A sacrifice? Arisa's gaze turned to her, softening. You still have time to return to your world. Leave this place. Leave him. It will close behind you, and the storm will stop. Rune reached for Livia's hand. Don't listen. She wants to divide us. But Arisa stepped back and raised her hand. The memory tree cracked down the middle. A scream echoed through the realm. Not human, but something older, something deep. And the gate that led home began to fade. The splitting of the memory tree sent tremors through the realm, shaking the ground and darkening the sky. Livia stumbled, clutching Rune's hand as the dreamscape around them began to unravel, slowly, painfully, as though mourning its own fracture. Rune's eyes darted to the fading archway. The gate! It's closing! Then we run, Livia said, her voice trembling but firm. No, Arisa called, her voice wind-laced and rising. She can still go back, but only if she leaves you behind. Livia turned to Rune, her heart thundering. Tell me the truth, all of it. What did you do that caused this? What is she talking about? Rune's jaw clenched. I made a pact with the Shadow Realm to escape my kingdom's war. I promised it my memories of power, of my life as a prince, in exchange for refuge. I didn't know love would reopen the bond. Arisa stepped forward. And when he fell, in love with you, Livia, those forgotten memories, his identity, his magic, they surged back. Now the realm wants payment. If it doesn't get it, it will break both your worlds. Livia's legs weakened. So what do we do? What choice is left? Rune looked at the fading gate, then at Livia, his eyes shining. We go together. I won't lose you. Arisa raised her hand, the realm swirling behind her like a storm. Fools! If you try to leave together, it will collapse. One of you must stay. Livia looked at the gate, the love of her life beside her, and the storm building behind. Her fingers found Rune's. No, she whispered. I won't let this realm take you. The shadows surged toward them. Rune gripped her hand tighter. Then we fight fate. And as the gate flickered like a dying star, they ran, toward the light, toward hope, and away from the wrath of a realm scorned. The ground cracked beneath their feet as Livia and Rune ran toward the flickering silver archway. Shadows lunged like serpents, hissing with forgotten voices, trying to pull them back. The sky had turned crimson, fractured like stained glass, and the dreamscape groaned under its own collapse. "Don't look back," Rune said, breath ragged. "Just hold on." Livia's heart pounded as her fingers clung to his. Behind them, the shadow realm shrieked, mourning a love it couldn't keep. The archway pulsed, faint, flickering, like the final heartbeat of a dying star. If they didn't reach it now, it would vanish forever. A wall of dark mist rose in front of them. Livia skidded to a halt. No, it's blocking us." Rune stepped forward, lifting the cracked dream key. "Let us pass." The mist hissed in response, forming a shape. A face, twisted and ancient. "One leaves," it rasped. "One stays." "No," Livia said, stepping between it and Rune. "You've taken enough. This love doesn't belong to you." She gripped Rune's hand tighter and pressed the dream key to her chest. "We leave. Together." The key shattered. Light erupted from the shards, burning through the mist with a scream of defiance. The silver arch flared to life, a blinding tunnel of starlight. The path opened, barely wide enough for two. "Now," Rune shouted. They leapt. The realm roared behind them, clawing at their heels. For a moment, Livia felt herself torn, between realms, between choices, but Rune's arms wrapped around her, anchoring her to hope. And then, silence. The cool night air of Calyren filled her lungs, the scent of spices, the distant cry of gulls. She was in the alley again, her basket at her feet, the dream key dust in Rune's hand. They had made it, but the cost? She could still feel it, echoing in her chest. Rune met her gaze, his smile weary, bittersweet. "We're free, for now." The first light of dawn crept over Calyren's tiled rooftops, casting long golden shadows across the narrow alley. The world was waking, merchants stirring, wagons rattling down cobbled streets. But Livia stood still, staring at Rune, her breath caught between disbelief and wonder. They were back. No dream, no illusion. The shadow realm had let them go, scarred, changed, but together. Rune looked exhausted. His shirt was torn, soot clinging to his skin. He glanced at the fragments of the dream key in his hand and let them fall. "It's gone," he whispered. "We can't go back, even if we wanted to." Livia touched her face, half expecting to still feel the cold mist of the realm. But this was real. The weight of her choices settled in like morning fog. "What now?" she asked. Rune's violet eyes lifted to hers. "We hide. At least until I can figure out if my enemies followed me here." A cold fear slipped into her chest. "Will they come for you?" "They always do," he said quietly. "A banished prince is a loose thread. If they find out I've crossed back into this world—" "You won't face them alone," she said, gripping his hand. They moved through the waking city like ghosts, unnoticed among the bustle. Livia didn't go home. She couldn't. Not yet. Her heart burned with guilt, with fear, but also with fierce defiance. She had chosen Rune. She would see it through. They found shelter in a quiet tavern near the harbor, one that catered to travelers and didn't ask questions. The innkeeper gave them a modest room, and for a moment, the world felt suspended. As Rune slept, Livia sat by the window, writing a letter to Gavrin. Her hand trembled with every word. She told him the truth. She told him goodbye. And as the sun rose over Calyren, Livia realized her life had split into before and after. The shadow realm was behind her, but its shadow still whispered. The room was quiet, except for the distant creak of ships and the murmur of waves against the dockside. Livia folded the letter with trembling fingers, sealing it with wax from a candle beside the bed. The note felt heavier than any ledger she had ever kept, because it wasn't numbers or trade goods, but her soul. She dressed in a plain cloak, covering her hair, and slipped out while Rune still slept. The streets of Calyren were stirring now. Vendors, calling out prices, seagulls circling above, children darting between carts. Everything looked the same, yet she felt like a ghost among the living. Her feet led her to the edge of the merchant quarter, to the townhouse she had shared with Gavrin. Its shutters were open, the scent of morning bread drifting into the street. A pang stabbed her chest. With careful steps, she approached the door. She didn't knock. She simply slipped the letter under the threshold, pressing it down with her fingertips as if it might anchor her past to this place one last time. She turned away, not daring to look back. By the time she returned to the tavern, Rune was awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, the morning light soft on his face. He looked up as she entered. "Did you go to him?" "I left the letter," she said, her voice quiet. Rune stood. "You didn't have to do that yet." "Yes, I did," she said. "He deserves the truth, and I needed to let go." They stood in silence. Then Rune stepped closer and pulled a silver pendant from beneath his shirt. He placed it in her hand. "This belonged to my mother, a symbol of House Calyren." Livia studied it. The symbol etched on its surface looked like a lantern surrounded by wings. "What does it mean?" "Hope," Rune said. "Even in exile." She closed her fingers around it, feeling the weight of his history. "Then we'll carry it together." And in that small rented room above a harbor tavern, two fugitives from the past stood side by side, uncertain of the future, but no longer running alone. Later that evening, the tavern buzzed with hushed conversation and the clatter of tankards, but Rune and Livia kept to their small corner, cloaked in shadows. A fire crackled in the hearth, its warmth doing little to calm the growing chill in Livia's chest. "They'll come for me," Rune said softly, watching the flames. "My brother won't let me vanish without a hunt, not after what I stole." Livia's eyes widened. "You never told me what it was." Rune leaned back, shadows dancing across his jawline. "Not gold, not jewels. I stole an oath, a vow that bound the Shadow Realm to the royal bloodline." She stared. "You mean the dream key?" He nodded. "It's more than a trinket. It's the last of its kind. My ancestors used it to control the balance between the waking world and the realm. But I couldn't let them exploit it. They wanted to twist it into a weapon, trap people's desires, use their dreams to manipulate kingdoms." Livia's fingers tightened around the pendant he'd given her. "And now you've given it to me." "Because I trust you," he said, reaching for her hand. "And because the realm answers to us now." A flicker of unease passed through her. The realm. They had only scratched its surface, yet it had nearly devoured them. Could love truly tame such a place? Before she could speak, a hooded figure approached their table, sliding into the bench across from them. Rune's body tensed, his hand darting to the knife at his belt. The stranger raised both hands. "Peace, my prince." Livia blinked. I'm Varek," the man said, pulling back his hood to reveal storm-gray eyes and a scar across his chin. "I served your mother before she fell." Rune stared, speechless. "You're not safe here," Varek continued. "The king knows. His spies are in Calyren already." Livia's blood ran cold. Rune leaned forward. "Then what do you suggest?" Varek's eyes flicked toward the window. "You want to survive? You must go where even shadows don't tread. The hidden gate, deep beneath the old ruins." Livia and Rune exchanged a glance. Danger had finally found them, and the only way out was through forgotten paths and ancient secrets. Rain fell in a soft, persistent drizzle as Livia followed Rune, and Varek beyond the edge of Calyren. The city's glow faded behind them, swallowed by trees and fog. They traveled in silence, the tension between them thick with questions unsaid. Every step into the woods felt like a farewell to the world she had known. "This place," Rune muttered, squinting into the mist. "It hasn't changed." "You've been here before?" Livia asked, her breath fogging in the cold air. "As a boy," he said. "My mother brought me once, to show me where dreams were born and where they ended." They reached a moss-covered stone archway half buried in roots and leaves. It stood crooked in the forest clearing, ancient symbols carved into its frame. Varek knelt and traced the markings with reverence. "The gate," he whispered, "still intact." Livia stepped closer. The air around it felt different, thick with memory. She placed a hand on the stone and felt it hum beneath her palm. This leads to the heart of the realm, Rune said, a place untouched by time. Then why haven't we gone there before? She asked. He hesitated. Because it's dangerous, even to those who rule it. The dreams there aren't shaped by us. They're shaped by what we fear. A shiver crept down her spine. And we have to go through it? Varric stood. You have no choice. The king's hunters are tracking you. The only path left is forward, through the gate and into the deep dream. Livia's pulse quickened. Gavrin's name flickered in her mind like a candle flame, distant now. She had chosen this road, chosen Rune, and now it led into the unknown. Rune reached for her hand. With me? She nodded. Always. Together, they stepped beneath the arch, and the world unraveled around them. The moment Livia stepped through the stone arch, a rush of wind swallowed her senses. The world bent and twisted, colors bleeding into one another. When her feet touched solid ground again, the forest was gone. In its place stood a realm of impossible wonder and unspoken terror. She gasped. The sky above them shimmered with hues of gold and violet, swirling like oil on water. Floating islands drifted lazily overhead, tethered by glowing vines. Vast structures, part cathedral, part memory, rose from fields of glass. The air tasted sweet, like honey and lightning. Rune looked around, his jaw tight. We're inside the deep dream. Nothing here is real, yet everything can harm us. Livia clutched his arm. It's beautiful and deadly, Varric said. This place listens. It feeds on your thoughts. Keep your mind clear. But it wasn't so easy. Livia could feel it, the pull. Shapes moved in the corners of her. Vision. Voices whispered her name. The dream was calling her deeper. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them. Tall, dressed in crimson robes with no face, only a mirror where its features should be. Livia's reflection stared back at her, and then the mirror cracked. What is that? She whispered. One of the dream's sentinels, Rune answered, stepping between her and the figure. It tests you. If you lie to yourself here, you'll never leave. The sentinel raised a hand, and a wave of memory hit her. Gavrin, smiling, holding her hand beneath the stars. Then Rune, touching her cheek, whispering promises. Livia's knees buckled. It's inside my head. You must choose, the sentinel said, its voice echoing from nowhere. What do you carry into the deep dream, guilt or love? Tears welled in her eyes. Both, she whispered. The sentinel froze, then lowered its hand. You may pass, it said, vanishing in a burst of stardust. Varric exhaled. You passed the first trial. Livia steadied herself. How many more? Rune looked into the horizon where shadows gathered like a storm. Enough to break us, he said. The deep dream shifted beneath their feet, forming a wide plain of polished crystal. Every step echoed, and every surface reflected not just their images, but fragments of their memories. Livia glanced down and saw herself as a child, running through a meadow. Then, in another pane, her wedding day with Gavrin. And in the next, her first kiss with Rune. She shivered. This is the mirror field, Varric said grimly. It shows the moments that shaped you, and the ones that haunt you. Why? Livia asked. To make you doubt. Rune reached for her hand. Don't look too long. The dream wants to pull you into regret. But as they walked, a different image began repeating across the mirrors. Livia standing at the archway alone, without Rune. The vision blurred, but the pain in it was raw. A future she hadn't lived yet. Or maybe one she would. Suddenly, the mirrors trembled, cracks formed, a humming sound built in the air, rising like a scream. Then, from the shards, figures emerged, shadow versions of themselves, cold and empty-eyed. They're us, Livia gasped. No, Rune said, drawing his blade. They're what we would have become if we had chosen differently. Empty, controlled. The shadow Livia lunged at her, and Livia instinctively raised her arm. But instead of pain, she felt warmth, her pendant glowing with a soft golden light. The shadow hissed and vanished. Varric nodded. Your truth protects you. Believe in what you feel, or this place will strip it away. Together they fought the shadows, memories twisted into enemies. Livia struck down her regret. Rune silenced his shame. And in the end, the mirror field stilled, the last reflection showing them holding each other in the moonlight. You passed again, Varric said, panting. But it's getting harder, Rune murmured. Livia squeezed his hand. Then we hold tighter. Beyond the mirror field, the dreamscape darkened. What had once shimmered with light now loomed with quiet dread. The sky swirled black and violet, heavy with storm clouds. Varric led them through a forest of stone pillars, each etched with ancient runes that pulsed faintly beneath their fingers. At the heart of the ruins stood a massive door, twice as tall as a man, carved from obsidian and marked with 7 seals. Livia stared in awe. What is this? Varric's voice was low. The Forbidden Gate. It leads to the heart of the deep dream, to the source of the shadow realm itself. Rune stepped forward. And beyond it, my freedom? Perhaps. Or your end. The gate doesn't open for power or courage. It opens for sacrifice. Livia felt the weight of that word settle in her chest. Sacrifice. Always sacrifice. Rune touched the seals, each glowing briefly under his hand. What must I give? Varric didn't answer. Instead, the dream began to whisper. Not in words, but in emotions. Loneliness, longing, loss. The gate pulsed, responding to Rune's presence. But something was missing. Livia stepped beside him. It needs more than him, she whispered. It needs me, too. Varric watched her silently. You entered the dream not just for love, but for truth. That makes you part of this. Livia's hands trembled as she placed them beside Rune's. The obsidian turned warm, the runes glowed brighter, the seals began to crack. Suddenly the gate spoke, not in sound but in Livia's mind. What do you love most? She saw Rune's face, then Gavrin's, then her own, alone, unbound, alive. What would you give up to keep it? The seals shattered, and the gate began to open. The forbidden gate groaned as it opened, revealing a swirling corridor of mist and starlight. The air beyond was thicker, heavy with emotion. Fear, passion, hope, and despair interwoven like threads in a cosmic tapestry. Livia felt her heartbeat echo in her ears as she stepped forward beside Rune. Are you ready? He asked, his voice trembling. No, she whispered. But I'll go anyway. Varric didn't follow. He stood at the edge of the threshold, his eyes distant. This is where I leave you. What lies ahead is meant for those still willing to risk everything. Livia nodded, grateful but anxious. She and Rune entered the corridor, hand in hand, as the gate closed behind them with a thunderous boom. Inside, the world shifted. One moment, they were walking through fog. The next, they stood on a cliff of floating crystal, looking down at memories from both their lives. Below them, scenes played out. Gavrin laughing over wine, Rune as a boy kneeling before a cruel king, Livia alone, in her garden, reaching for a bird that always flew away. The heart of the dream reflects what we hide, Rune murmured, and what we deny. Livia turned as a version of herself appeared behind them, cloaked in white, eyes hollow, lips stitched shut. She wore a crown of broken vows. She's me, Livia breathed, the part I buried. The ghostly figure reached out a hand. Rune pulled Livia close. Don't let her touch you. But it was too late. The figure placed her hand over Livia's heart, and pain bloomed through her chest. Her memories surged, her wedding, her betrayal, her kiss with Rune, and the aching guilt that followed. She fell to her knees. Rune held her. Livia, fight it. You're not just guilt, you're love, your choice. The dream pulsed, responding to his words. The ghost hissed and dissolved into mist. Livia gasped for air, the weight lifting, but now they knew. The dream wasn't just watching, it was judging. Livia and Rune stood together on the crystal cliff, breathless from what they had just endured. The air shimmered around them, and the mist began to pull away, revealing a path of floating glass steps leading deeper into the heart of the dream. They followed the path in silence. Each step reflected not their bodies, but their emotions. Livia's sorrow, Rune's longing, the fragile thread of love that bound them. With each step, they were tested. Whispers rose around them, voices from their past. "Livia, come home," Gavrin's voice pleaded from the mist. "You promised," another whispered. "You vowed." Rune paused, shaken. "They're echoes. They'll twist our hearts if we let them." Livia nodded, tears burning in her eyes. "Keep walking. Don't stop." At the end of the path stood a tall, silver-framed mirror. Its surface rippled like water, glowing faintly. They approached, and the mirror solidified, revealing a single reflection, not two people, but one form, half Livia, half Rune. "What is this?" she asked, voice trembling. "The mirror of love," Rune said softly. "It shows the bond between two souls. If it holds, it grants passage to the dream core. If it breaks..." The mirror began to crack. Livia reached for Rune's hand. "No, not again." But Rune pulled away, his face stricken. "You have a life, Livia. A home. A husband. Maybe this was never meant to be real." "You are real to me," she said fiercely. The mirror stopped cracking. Their hands met again, and the cracks reversed, sealing into smooth glass. The mirror pulsed once, then shimmered into mist, revealing a new gate, this one made of golden light. Livia looked at Rune. "What's through there?" he answered, voice quiet and full of wonder. "The truth." And together, they stepped through. Light enveloped them as they passed through the golden gate. For a moment, Livia felt weightless, like her body was dissolving into air. Then her feet touched ground, soft, warm, and alive. They stood in a vast circular chamber, open to the sky, yet walled with flowing curtains of starlight. At the center pulsed a sphere of living energy, blue, silver, and violet threads weaving endlessly. It hovered above a dais of carved stone, symbols glowing beneath it. Rune's eyes widened. "The dream core," he whispered, "the heart of the shadow realm." The chamber was silent but not empty. The core hummed, as if it were breathing, watching. "What happens now?" Livia asked. Rune approached it slowly. "This place holds the realm's power and memory. It's alive, and it knows what we've done." The core brightened, and a voice filled the space. Not spoken, but felt in their bones. "You seek love in defiance of oaths." Livia stepped forward. "I didn't choose to betray. I chose to live, to feel. You bring truth into a place, built on shadow." Rune clenched his fists. "We've done nothing but bare our souls. Isn't that what this realm feeds on? And now it must decide." The core pulsed rapidly, and beams of light shot out, one striking Livia, the other Rune. She gasped as visions flooded her mind. Gavrin's lonely nights, Rune's exile, her stolen moments, her shame, her fire. She fell to her knees. Rune cried. Out, staggering. "Livia!" She reached out blindly, found his hand. Their fingers intertwined. The core flashed once more, then stilled. "One choice remains," the voice said. "Love that defies fate must be earned." A final gate opened. Behind the dais, glowing blood red. Rune looked at her, his voice low. "One more test," Livia nodded, heart pounding. "Then let's face it together." Livia and Rune approached the blood-red gate with hearts hammering. It shimmered like molten glass, its glow pulsing in time with the dream core behind them. As they stepped through, the warmth of the chamber gave way to a bitter chill. They emerged in a forest cloaked in shadows, darker than any they had seen. The trees here were twisted, gnarled, their bark weeping black sap. No stars lit the sky. Only a faint red glow pulsed from beneath the earth. "This isn't just shadow," Rune said grimly. "This is judgment." They moved cautiously, Rune's hand on his sword, Livia's fingers clutching the memory of hope. As they walked, whispers swirled around them, familiar voices, cruel echoes. "Livia, how could you?" Gavrin's voice. She froze. The voice came from a tree, its surface morphing into her husband's face, eyes filled with pain. "I gave you everything." She turned away, guilt clawing at her. Rune placed a hand on her shoulder. "Don't listen. It's a trick." But his own torment rose around him, his father's voice booming from the darkness. "You were never worthy of the crown. You shamed our name." Rune staggered, grabbing his head. "It's pulling our regrets out, feeding on them." Livia looked ahead. A path of thorns stretched forward, glowing faintly red. At the end stood a pedestal with a crystal blade and 2 masks, one black, one silver. A voice whispered again. "To leave, blood must seal love. Choose your truth." They stood before the blade. Rune touched it. "We must cut away what we hide, our guilt, our doubt." Livia's hands trembled. "If I let go of Gavrin, I betray everything he gave me." Rune's voice broke. "And if I let go of my past, I betray my kingdom." They looked into each other's eyes, and together they reached for the blade. The crystal blade gleamed with cold fire as Rune lifted it between them. Its edge shimmered, reflecting not their faces but moments from their past. Livia's wedding day, Rune's coronation, tears, triumphs, betrayals. It pulsed with a silent demand. "Choose." Livia took a steadying breath. "If I cut away my love for Gavrin, will it kill who I was?" Rune's eyes locked on hers. "It won't kill you. It will free you." She reached for the blade and its surface warmed beneath her fingers. She pressed the edge to her palm. A thin line of blood welled, and as it fell onto the pedestal, the silver mask flared with light. "I release the life I thought I wanted," she whispered, "and choose the one my soul burns for." Rune followed, slicing his hand with the same reverence. The black mask pulsed when his blood touched it. "I release the throne I lost. I choose love over legacy." The masks rose, merging into a single obsidian silver helm that shimmered with runes. The whispers around them turned into a low hum, then silence. The thorn path crumbled. The red light faded. In its place stood a simple wooden door with a brass handle. Livia blinked. "That's it?" Rune smiled, bleeding hand still clasped in hers. "Sometimes the hardest door to open is the one that leads to peace." They stepped forward and opened it. Behind the door was not Calyren, not yet. It was a glade bathed in warm golden light, a realm between realms where time held its breath. The final test was coming, but for now they were together, and the world was still. The golden light bathed Livia and Rune in a calm so deep it felt like silence had form. The air smelled of sweet moss and rain-kissed stone. Time slowed, the world pausing to let them breathe. "This place... it's not the Shadow Realm anymore," Livia murmured. "No," Rune said softly. "It's the Veil. The place between choices and consequences." They stood on a carpet of soft grass, surrounded by willow trees whose silver leaves shimmered like falling stars. A stream ran nearby, clear and still. For the first time, Livia didn't feel the weight of guilt or fear. She sank beside the water and dipped her fingers in. It was warm, soothing. She looked up at Rune. "Are we safe here?" "For a moment," he said. "But it's not a sanctuary. It's a pause. The realm gives it to those who've sacrificed, to reflect before the final gate." Livia lay back and stared at the shifting sky. "Do you regret it? Giving up your kingdom?" He sat beside her, brushing hair from her face. "I only regret not finding you sooner." They rested, spoke of small things. She told him about the first time she met Gavren, how he'd gifted her a globe filled with falling snow. Rune spoke of secret gardens in his childhood palace, where he used to hide from his father's fury. Every word stitched them closer. Then, in the distance, a bell tolled. Soft, deep, resonant. The veil was ending. The willow leaves began to fall. The stream shimmered and a path of light appeared. "It's time," Rune said, helping her up. Livia took one last look at the peaceful glade, imprinting it in memory. "Whatever's ahead, we face it together." Rune nodded, gripping her hand. Together. Until the stars go out, and they stepped onto the path, toward the final truth. The path of light shimmered beneath their feet, each step echoing like footsteps in a cathedral. Around them the veil faded, its silver trees dissolving into mist, its soft winds growing still. At the end of the path stood a gate unlike any they had seen. It wasn't carved from stone or forged from iron. It was made of memory, shifting. Images of Livia's past flickering across its surface. Gavren's gentle smile, her wedding day under sunlit banners, her lonely night staring at the sea. Then Rune's face appeared, his eyes, his kiss, their first night beneath the starlit trees. Livia froze. "What is this?" she whispered. Rune's grip tightened. "The final gate. It shows you what you carry, and what you must leave behind." Voice surrounded them, calm, ancient. One truth to pass. Speak your heart, unshrouded. Livia's throat tightened. "I don't know what to say." "Yes, you do," Rune said gently. Her eyes burned. She stepped forward. "I loved Gavren," she said, voice trembling. "He gave me a life when I had nothing. I respected him, honored him, but I was never truly seen." The gate shimmered, showing Gavren sitting alone, a letter in his hands. "I betrayed him," she continued. "Not just with my body, but with my soul. And yet I don't regret loving Rune, because with him I finally came alive." The gate's light pulsed. "I am not innocent, but I am honest now. My heart is Rune's." Silence. Then the gate opened, quietly, without fanfare. Livia turned to Rune, tears in her eyes. "Is that enough?" He smiled. "It's everything." They stepped through. Beyond was not Calyren, nor the Shadow Realm, but something new. A world rewritten by truth. And behind them, the veil whispered shut. Calyren greeted them with silence. The market square, usually alive with voices and music, was still, bathed in soft golden dawn. A breeze whispered through hanging tapestries, and seagulls circled above, crying as if they sensed something had changed. Livia stepped forward, her boots clicking on cobblestone. Her breath misted. Rune followed, his eyes scanning every corner like a hunted man. They were back, but not quite. Livia noticed it first. A merchant's stall nearby was frozen in motion, fruit suspended mid-tumble, the shopkeeper's hand hanging in the air. Time had paused. "Are we truly home?" she whispered. Rune closed his eyes, then nodded slowly. "We are. But the realm, it left its mark." His fingers lifted the broken dream key, now dull and gray. "We didn't just pass through the veil, we shattered it. The boundary between this world and the next. It's thinner now." Livia's heart tightened. Will others find it? Maybe, but they won't be ready. A shimmer ran through the city. Time lurched forward. Fruit thudded into a basket. The shopkeeper blinked, and the streets buzzed with life again. They were unnoticed, unseen, like ghosts returned from a forgotten place. Livia took his hand. "We need shelter." Rune nodded. "There's a tavern near the docks. Quiet. We can think there." As they slipped through alleys, avoiding familiar faces, Livia's thoughts turned inward. She had passed through dream and desire. She had spoken truth at the final gate. But the world she returned to was the one she had once fled. Her choices had real weight now, and shadows, both political and magical, still followed the man beside her. The tavern Rune led her. It was tucked beneath the old seawall, where sailors rarely ventured and rumors died quiet deaths. It was called the Drowned Lantern, a place of flickering oil lamps, creaking floorboards, and silence thick as brine. The innkeeper didn't speak when they entered. He only nodded once, at Rune, and handed over a rusted key. Livia followed Rune up a narrow staircase, their footsteps muffled by salt-stained rugs. The room at the end of the hall was small, just a bed, a desk, and a shuttered window facing the harbor. Rune bolted the door behind them. "Safe for now," he said. Livia sat on the edge of the bed, the mattress sighed under her weight. "You've been here before." "Once," Rune replied, removing his cloak. "After I fled the court. I hid here while the king's hounds scoured the coast." "The king," she echoed, the word like ash on her tongue. "He's still after you?" Rune nodded, his eyes weary. "My brother. The throne's his now, but he'll never rest until I'm dead. I know too much, and I carry a claim that frightens him." Livia folded her hands. "Then we have little time." Rune crossed to her, kneeling. "I never meant for you to carry this burden. The Shadow Realm, what we did there, it changed more than magic. It bound us, and that makes you a target too." Her heart thudded. "Would you go if I told you to?" He smiled, soft and sad. "Yes, but I'd die a little every day I lived without you." She touched his cheek. "Then we stay. We fight." In that quiet room, the wind howled outside like a warning. But within, their hands found each other, and for a moment, they were only Livia and Rune, lovers in exile, bound by a realm and a choice that could not be undone. Dawn came with a hush, rather than birdsong. From the window of the tavern, Livia watched fog roll over the harbor like a tide of ghosts. Below, fishing boats bobbed in the water, unaware of the storm building in her life. Rune stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes scanning the docks. "They'll look for me in the high districts first. That buys us time." "Time for what?" she asked softly. "To plan? To disappear? Or—" He hesitated. "To make a stand." Livia turned, her voice steady. "Tell me what your brother fears." Rune's jaw clenched. "There's a prophecy, old, forgotten. It says the younger son shall return through the veil, bound to the heart of another, and light shall burn the shadow from the throne. My brother always feared I'd return with someone who made me stronger." "Through the veil," Livia murmured. "The Shadow Realm." Rune nodded. "He thinks I fulfilled it with you." Livia's breath caught. "Me? You opened the realm. You brought us back. And your love—" He paused, reaching for her hand. "It's what made it possible." A knock at the door made them freeze. 3 slow raps. Then silence. Rune's body tensed. He motioned for Livia to stay back and moved toward the door. He opened it a sliver, just enough to glimpse the face on the other side. It was the innkeeper. Spoke in a gravel voice, eyes darting. "Riders from the north. Royal crest. Asking for a man with violet eyes." Rune shut the door and turned to Livia. "They're here." Outside, the wind carried a whisper, one only the attuned could hear. Voice from the realm they had escaped. "Livia, the choice is not over." Livia's heart pounded like thunder in her chest. "We can't stay," she whispered. "Not with the king's men this close." Rune nodded. "We leave through the harbor. There's a smuggler I once saved in Jalum. If he's still alive, he owes me a favor." Livia grabbed her satchel, stuffing it with coins, dried fruit, and the one thing she couldn't leave behind, the shard of the cracked dream key. It no longer glowed, but it felt like a piece of her soul. Downstairs, the tavern was nearly empty. The innkeeper stood by the hearth pretending to stir embers, but his eyes tracked their every move. As Rune pressed a gold coin into his hand, he muttered, "You didn't see us?" "I never do," the old man replied with a slight nod. They slipped into the misty morning, cloaks drawn tight. Calyren's docks were waking up, Sailors shouted, crates clattered, and seagulls cried overhead. Yet beneath the surface, tension pulsed like a second heartbeat. "There," Rune said, pointing to a narrow vessel moored beside a stack of barrels. A man in a patched coat leaned on the railing, his beard streaked with gray and his eye covered by a sapphire lens. "Captain Braith," Rune called. The man turned, his wary expression breaking into a grin. "Rune! Thought you were dead." "Almost," Rune replied. "I need passage. Quiet and fast." Braith spat overboard. "You always need something. And the lady?" "My wife?" Rune said without flinching. Livia blinked, heat rushing to her cheeks, but she didn't correct him. Braith raised a brow. "Even better. Get aboard." They climbed onto the ship just as royal riders in crimson cloaks reached the harbor road. From behind a crate, Livia watched them speak to dock hands, showing a parchment. "It's only a matter of time," she whispered. Rune took her hand. "Then we sail before the clock runs out." As the ship pulled away from the dock, Calyren fading into fog, Livia whispered a silent goodbye. But deep in her heart, she knew the past would follow, especially when it carried the fury of a king. The sea was calm, but Livia's mind churned with storm clouds. The soft slap of waves against the hull, the creak of the ship's ropes, and the salty breeze offered little comfort as Calyren disappeared behind them. She leaned against the railing, watching the horizon. "Do you think they'll chase us?" "They will," Rune said, standing beside her. "Not because of me, but because of you." She turned, surprised. "Me?" "You're the scandal now," he said with a rueful smile. "The merchant's wife who vanished with a fugitive prince. The woman who cheated the realm itself." Livia looked down at her hands. "I didn't want to become a story." "You already were one," he murmured, brushing a lock of hair from her cheek. "You just hadn't read the ending yet." His touch sent warmth through her, but her thoughts drifted. Gavrin's face haunted her, not with anger, but with disappointment. The man who never raised his voice, who trusted without chains, she'd betrayed that. "I wrote him," she said quietly. "Before we left. I told him everything." Rune nodded. "He deserved that." "I didn't expect to fall in love again," she admitted. "I wasn't looking for you." "I was looking for you," he whispered. Their eyes locked. But before either could speak, Braith shouted from the helm, "We've got sails on the horizon." Rune spun, scanning the waves. "How?" "Many. 3 ships, fast." Livia's stomach dropped. "Royal? Colors match the crown," Braith confirmed grimly. "They'll catch us before dusk." Rune grabbed her hand. "Below deck. Now." "But..." "We'll hide, wait for nightfall. Braith will sail into the reef channel. It's dangerous, but if anyone can outmaneuver the king's ships, it's him." Livia followed, heart pounding. The ship groaned as they descended into its belly, each step a beat of growing dread. She looked back once more at the open sea, the chase beginning, and she knew. Freedom wouldn't come easy. Darkness cloaked. The lower deck, broken only by the dim glow of a single lantern swaying from a hook. Livia sat on a crate, knees drawn up, the floor vibrating faintly beneath her as Braith turned the ship toward treacherous waters. Rune paced nearby, his silhouette tense. "Braith knows these reefs. We have to trust him." "I do," Livia whispered. "But I don't trust the king to give up the chase." Rune stopped, his violet eyes catching the flickering light. "He won't. Not until I'm in chains, or dead." She reached for him, her fingers wrapping around his. "Then we survive, no matter what it takes." Above them, the ship listed sharply. A jolt knocked Livia forward, and Rune caught her just before she fell. The hull groaned as wood scraped something beneath. Braith's voice echoed faintly through the planks. "We're in the channel! Hold tight!" The reef channel was a narrow strip between jagged rocks, feared even by seasoned sailors. Few ships dared enter, but Rune had gambled on desperation and Braith's unmatched skill. They waited. Breath held, another grinding sound, then silence. Moments passed. Then Braith's voice again, this time triumphant. They've backed off. Won't risk the reefs. Livia exhaled, slumping in relief. Rune knelt in front of her, brushing hair from her face. We bought time. For how long? She asked. Long. Enough to disappear, he said. Long enough to reach the Whisper Isles. Livia blinked. You still want to go there? It's the only place left untouched by the crown or the realm. Magic there bends differently, freer. And what? Then, Rune looked at her, his voice soft. Then we build a life. One they can't reach. For the first time, hope flickered behind Livia's fear. But in the quiet below deck, neither noticed the tiny black wisp curling from a crack in the floorboards. Shadow, watching, waiting. The sea had calmed, but the tension aboard the Silver Wind had not. Night settled like a veil, thick and watchful. Rune and Livia stood at the ship's stern, the ocean stretching endlessly, stars glittering like distant hopes. Livia leaned into him. It's too quiet. Rune nodded. They're regrouping. The king's fleet isn't done. Below them, the ship creaked, ropes shifting, sails sighing with the breeze. Livia closed her eyes, feeling Rune's heartbeat beneath her hand. Was warm, solid, real, but something felt off. Do you feel that? She asked, suddenly tense. Rune pulled back, alert. What? She pointed to the mast. The shadows. They're moving. Rune followed her gaze and froze. The shadows near the mast rippled, not with the wind, but with intent. A darkness not cast by moonlight. Something alive. Something familiar. The realm, Rune whispered. It followed us. Livia's throat went dry. I thought we escaped it. He gripped her arms. It never truly lets go. Not when love is the key. The shadow twisted, then vanished with a hiss. Rune turned, rushing for the stairs. We have to warn Braith. The ship isn't just being chased by men. It's haunted by what we woke. Below deck, lanterns flickered, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Livia followed, each step heavier than the last. It's feeding on us, isn't it? She said quietly. On our bond. Rune stopped at the cabin door. Yes. The stronger we are, the more power it gains. That's why it hasn't struck. Yet, it's waiting. For what? He opened the door slowly, eyes scanning the shadows. For the moment, we let fear win. Inside, the cabin was still. But on the wall above the maps, scrawled in ash, were words no hand had written. He was yours. But you were always mine. Livia stared, chilled to her bones. The Shadow Realm had a voice now. And it was jealous. Captain Braith read the message. On the cabin wall, her weathered face paling under the flickering lantern. No one came in or out. That writing? How is this possible? Rune stepped forward, jaw tight. It's not from this world. It's from the realm. The shadow. Realm? Braith hissed. That cursed place? You brought that aboard my ship? We didn't mean to, Livia said quickly, stepping beside Rune. It followed us. Like a jealous spirit. It wants Rune, and me. Braith stared at them, her anger, melting into understanding and fear. Then it's not just the king's fleet we have to outrun. Rune turned to Livia. We need to draw it out. Confront it. How? She asked. We don't even know what it is. Not what, Rune corrected. Who? The Shadow Realm isn't just a place, it's sentient, alive, and it's tied to the first soul that was lost inside it, the original dreamer. Livia shivered. You mean the realm has a heart? Yes, and it's waking. Suddenly, Livia gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Beneath her skin, something burned, just over her heart. She pulled at her dress and found a faint mark glowing, a spiral of violet light, like a brand. Rune, she whispered. What is this? His face darkened. The realm has claimed you. You entered too deep. It left its mark. Braith backed. Away. If that thing's claiming your wife, it'll come for the rest of us too. I can't have that aboard my ship. Rune stepped in front of Livia. You owe me passage. I owe you nothing if you damn us all, Braith barked. Unless you find a way to break this curse, I'll turn this ship around and toss you both overboard. Livia looked up at Rune, her voice shaking. Is there a way? He hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but it means diving into the realm one last time. Night fell hard upon the ocean, casting a velvet curtain over the world. In the belly of the ship, Rune drew a silver circle on the cabin floor using powder from the broken dream key. Livia sat cross-legged within it, her marked chest glowing faintly through her blouse. The sea creaked around them, wind howling like the cries of lost souls. Are you sure this will work? She asked. Rune knelt before her. It will open. A passage, not like before. This time, we don't go as dreamers. We go as challengers. If the realm wants us, it must face us. He sliced his palm with a dagger, letting the blood drip into the powder. It hissed, turning black, and the room darkened unnaturally. A ripple shimmered through the air. I'm coming with you, Livia said, grabbing his hand. Rune looked into her eyes. You don't have to. If I can reach the heart alone. I'm already marked, she whispered. We're bound, remember? They kissed, soft and slow, the world fading around them. Then, in a blink, the ship vanished, and the realm returned. They stood in a field of floating glass, each shard reflecting a memory. Gavrin's face, Rune's exile, the kiss in the silver woods, the trembling sky when they escaped. The air buzzed with energy, thick with meaning. Livia turned. Where is it? As if in answer, the realm shifted. A figure emerged, tall, draped in shadow and stars. Its face was a mirror, and in it, Livia saw herself, afraid, uncertain, longing. The figure spoke. You seek to escape me, yet you carry me inside you. Rune stepped forward. We don't fear you. Then face your truth, the figure said, and raised its hand. The ground cracked open. Darkness poured upward. The heart of the shadow. Realm was awake. The darkness that erupted from the cracked earth coiled like a serpent, wrapping around Livia and Rune in tendrils of cold. The sky above shimmered, then tore open into a swirling eye of storm. The mirror-faced figure stood still, waiting, not to fight, but to judge. Livia's breath caught as shadows peeled from the ground, taking forms. One became Calyren, standing, solemnly with sadness in his eyes. Another took Rune's mother's shape, regal and silent. A third resembled a child, Livia's unborn daughter, a life not yet lived, but now reflected from the depths of her heart. This is the trial, Rune whispered. The realm tests whether our love is truth or fantasy. Livia stepped toward Calyren's form. I never meant to betray you, she said softly. You gave me everything, security, trust, but not the fire I needed to feel alive. The shadow Calyren only nodded, fading as if her truth freed it. Next, Rune approached the shadow of his mother. You cast me out for loving a girl without magic. You told me love made me weak, but look at me now. I found strength in love. She too vanished, dissolving into mist. But the shadow child remained. Livia's voice trembled. Who are you? The child tilted her head. What would you give up to keep this love? A future that could have been a child with Calyren, peace. Tears welled in Livia's eyes. I don't know what could have been. I only know what is. And I choose Rune. The child smiled, bittersweet, and faded. The mirror-faced figure lowered its hand, and the storm above calmed. You have spoken truth, the figure said. You may proceed, but know this. Love built in shadow must walk in light, or it will rot from within. The ground reformed, a path of glowing silver stretching ahead. At its end waited the heart of the realm. The silver path wound through a forest of whispering trees, their leaves rustling secrets with every breeze. Livia walked hand in hand with Rune, her heart pounding, not from fear, but from the weight of what they had just faced. Their truce had been spoken aloud. There was no turning back now. Ahead, a light glowed faintly through the mist. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and rhythmic. As they drew closer, the trees thinned, revealing a clearing with a great stone pedestal. At its center, upon it hovered a floating crystal, dark as night, yet laced with veins of silver light. "The heart of the realm," Rune murmured. "It watches everything, and it remembers." Livia approached it, feeling its pull. Visions flashed across its surface, moments of her life, her first kiss with Gavrin, her wedding day, her first glimpse of Rune, their stolen glances, the first kiss in the dreamscape, the shadows they'd overcome. The crystal spun faster, reacting to her presence. Rune stepped forward, his voice steady. "They say the heart only opens to a love strong enough to withstand every trial, including the choice to let go." Livia turned to him. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, pain in his eyes, "we may have to choose, you or me. One stays behind. One carries the truth into the waking world." Livia shook her head. "No. We've come too far. I won't leave without you." The heart pulsed again, brighter this time. A low hum built around them, a vibration that rattled their bones and filled the air with tension. A voice, neither male nor female, echoed from the stone. "Prove your love. Prove your sacrifice." The ground cracked slightly beneath their feet. The realm demanded more. Livia knew this was only the beginning of the final test. The pulsing crystal hovered above the pedestal, its humming now a roar in Livia's chest. The mist around the clearing thickened, forming two doorways, one glowing, silver, the other shadowy and flickering like firelight. The heart spoke again, its voice echoing through the trees. "One door leads to freedom, the other to the eternal tether. Choose." Rune stepped beside her, his face tight with realization. "This is the price. One of us must bind to the realm to anchor the gate open, or it closes forever." Livia's voice cracked. "If one of us stays, the other returns alone?" Rune nodded slowly. "Yes, and the one who stays becomes part of the realm." A silence fell. Livia felt her knees weaken. The thought of returning to Calyren without Rune crushed her. Yet to trap him here was unthinkable. "No," she said, stepping back from the doors. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Rune said, his voice trembling. "I've seen it before. This realm feeds on strong emotions. Our love awakened it. Now it demands a toll." The shadows twisted, reaching toward them. Faces appeared again, Gavrin crying out her name, her mother's voice, even Rune's own younger face, full of pain. "Don't do this," she whispered. "Don't make me choose." Rune gently touched her cheek, brushing away a tear. "Then let me choose." He moved toward the shadowy door, his hand reaching. "No!" she cried, grabbing his arm. The silver door pulsed in response, light spilling toward them. The realm was watching, judging. Livia's mind raced. They had come here together. They had defied the odds, the lies, the pain. She couldn't let the story end in sacrifice. Not like this. So she did the only thing her heart told her to do. She stepped into the light. The heart pulsed once, and everything shattered into white. Blinding white consumed Livia's vision, erasing form, sound, even thought. For a breathless moment, she floated, neither in the shadow realm nor in Calyren, but somewhere in between. A weightless place where the rules of magic, time, and choice dissolved. Then came the scream, not from outside, but within her. The sound of her soul tearing. She stumbled forward, gasping, falling to her knees as the light faded. Around her, the trees had vanished, the pedestal, the crystal, the twin doors, gone. What remained was a vast silver plain, mist curling along the ground like breath. She wasn't alone. Rune knelt beside her, his hand still warm in hers. But something in his eyes had changed. They shimmered, not with tears, but with light. He looked at her not with love, but recognition, awe, pain. You chose, he whispered, but not for yourself. I stepped into the light, Livia said, her voice hoarse. I thought it would end the choice, free us both. He shook his head slowly. It did end the choice, but not the cost. Livia's heart pounded. What do you mean? Rune lifted her hand, pressing it to her chest. You carry the key now, the realm. It lives inside you. You became the anchor. She looked down and saw it, shadows curling beneath her skin, not dark, but silver-black, alive and flickering like stars in water. A silent truth washed over her. She had become part of the realm. Not trapped, not banished, but bound. Then, I'm not free, she murmured. You are, Rune said gently. You're the first who ever was. You didn't choose love or escape. You chose to become. And now the Shadow Realm is no longer a prison. It's yours. The plain shimmered, and the mist began to part. Far ahead, the outline of Calyren's gates emerged in the distance. She was going home, but not the woman who left. The mist thinned as Livia and Rune stepped forward, and with each stride, the shimmer of Calyren's harbor sharpened, its stone walls, the golden domes, the sails billowing in the breeze. But something inside her knew this wasn't the Calyren she had left. Or maybe it wasn't she who remained the same. When they crossed the final threshold between shadow and sun, the weight of the world pressed in again. The sounds of gulls, the chatter of merchants, the distant tolling of temple bells, and yet, she didn't belong here anymore. Rune stood beside her, silent, watching the city as if through a veil. They won't see us the same, he said. I know, she replied. But we're not the same. They walked through the city streets in silence. Livia's senses felt sharpened, the colors brighter, the sounds richer, as though the Shadow Realm had altered her very perception of the world. Faces turned to glance at her, then quickly away, unsettled by something they couldn't name. She stopped at her old home. The shutters were closed, the garden overgrown. Gavin was gone. She'd written to him weeks ago, and though he'd never replied, she hadn't expected to find the house so abandoned. A folded note was wedged in the doorframe. To Livia, I release you. I hope the stars guide you better than I ever could. Tears stung her eyes, but she felt no pain, only peace. Rune touched her shoulder. He understood. She nodded, and he left before the storm came. They turned away from the home that was no longer theirs, walking hand in hand into a city holding its breath. Somewhere in the distance, drums began to beat. A procession entered through the eastern gate, banners bearing the crest of a foreign king. The hunt had begun. They didn't need to ask who had arrived. The sigil, black sun over crimson sea, was seared into Rune's memory. King Valtric's mark, his brother's. Livia watched Rune's jaw clench. It's him. He nodded. Valtric sends envoys first. Assassins dressed as diplomats. She pulled him down a narrow alley, her breath shallow. Then we can't stay here, not in the open. They fled into the underbelly of Calyren, through spice markets and wine cellars, past taverns where bards sang of dead heroes. Rune guided her with uncanny precision, slipping through forgotten doors and shadowed tunnels. In a hidden cellar beneath the old moon temple, they paused. Candles flickered against cracked stone walls. Rune paced, his hands trembling. I thought we had more time. Livia touched his arm. We'll make time. We've cheated fate before. He gave her a weak smile. Fate doesn't like being cheated twice. Above them, Calyren stirred. The king's herald rode through the square, reading a decree in a booming voice. To all citizens, a fugitive prince has fled justice. Any who aid him face death. His companion, a woman named Livia Terran, is named traitor to the crown. Livia's stomach turned. Her name had become a weapon. Rune stepped forward, fire in his eyes. I won't let them touch you, We protect each other, she said firmly. This isn't just your fight anymore. He took her hand, fingers warm and sure. Then we stand together, no matter what. Outside, boots echoed on cobblestones. Soldiers spread through the streets. But below, in the damp quiet of the cellar, two hearts beat in defiance. The days that followed blurred into whispers and shadows. Livia and Rune moved like ghosts through Calyren, sheltering in places untouched by royal reach, abandoned shrines, smugglers' lofts, forgotten merchant tunnels. The city they once knew became a maze of danger. Every glance felt weighted, every sound too sharp. But in their exile, their bond deepened. Each night, Rune shared a fragment of his past, his exile from the kingdom of Vareth, the betrayal that tore his family apart, the dream of peace he once held before shadows swallowed it. I was meant to rule, he said one night, their hands entwined in a crumbling observatory. But Valtryek, he wanted power, not peace. Livia listened, her heart aching for him. And now he wants to erase you. He'll try, Rune said, but he won't win. Then, as the wind stirred the broken glass above, a soft sound cut through the silence. A blade being drawn. Livia's breath caught. They weren't alone. From the darkness stepped a woman clad in deep navy, her cloak edged with silver thread. Her face was hidden, but the weapon in her hand, a curved blade whispering with magic, told them enough. Rune of Vareth, she said, voice cold as ice. The king sends his greetings. He stepped forward, shielding Livia. Tell Valtryek, I'm not crawling back. The assassin moved swift as a shadow. Rune blocked her first strike, steel meeting steel in a clash that echoed across the rooftop. Livia backed away, searching for anything to aid him. The duel was brutal. Rune moved with the grace of a trained prince, but the assassin was faster, deadlier. She struck at his side, drawing blood. Rune! Livia cried. He faltered, but his eyes never left his opponent. Run! Now! But Livia didn't run. She grabbed a lantern and hurled it, flames bursting across the floor between them. The assassin retreated, snarling, her cloak catching fire. She vanished into the smoke. Rune collapsed, clutching his wound. Livia rushed to his side. You saved me, he gasped, smiling through the pain. We save each other, she whispered, pressing her hand to his bleeding side. The wound was deep, but Rune refused to slow down. They fled the burning rooftop, vanishing into the alleys before the city watch could arrive. Livia half carried him through the maze of back streets, her heart pounding, her mind racing with one thought. They were running out of time. They found shelter in a hidden cellar beneath an old apothecary. Abandoned, dust-choked, but safe for the moment. Livia cleaned Rune's wound with trembling hands, using herbs and old tonics left behind. He winced but stayed silent, watching her. You should have let me fight alone, he said softly. I'm not leaving you, she replied, tying a bandage tight around his ribs. We're in this together. Rune's smile was faint. You've changed, Livia. I had to, she whispered, brushing his hair back. The woman I was, she wouldn't have survived this. That night, as Rune slept restlessly, Livia sat beside him with parchment in hand. She stared at the blank page, for hours before finally writing. Gavrin, I never meant to hurt you. You gave me a life of peace, of kindness. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself in it. Not because you failed me, but because I forgot how to dream. Rune reminded me. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope one day you'll understand. She stopped there, the words blurring. Tears fell silently onto the page. She folded it, sealed it, and held it close to her chest. But she didn't send it. Not yet. Outside, dawn crept over Calyren's rooftops, gold spilling through the cracks. Shadows stretched long. Somewhere in the city, the assassin was still hunting. And beyond the sea, a king sharpened his sword. Inside the cellar, Livia watched over the man she had chosen, knowing her next choice could be the one that changed everything. The city didn't sleep anymore. News of the rooftop fire spread like storm winds through Calyren. Merchants whispered of rebels, mages murmured about shadow breaches, but none spoke aloud of the real truth, the prince who had returned, and the woman who walked with him. Deep in the apothecary's cellar, Rune stirred. His skin was pale, his breath shallow, but he still lived. Livia refused to leave his side, her fingers laced with his. She hadn't slept. Not really. Not since the rooftop fight, but they didn't have the luxury of rest. A knock. 3 soft raps on the hidden hatch above. Livia's heart slammed against her ribs. She reached for the dagger Rune kept near the bed. "Who is it?" she called. A pause. Then a familiar voice. "Calyren, it's me." She unbarred the hatch, letting their only ally into the shadows. Calyren ducked down, a satchel over his shoulder and concern etched into his face. "You were seen," he said. "There's a bounty now, not just on Rune, on you too." Livia flinched but nodded. "I expected that." Calyren glanced at Rune, who had begun to stir. "He's not ready to travel." "We may not have a choice," she whispered. Calyren hesitated, then opened the satchel. "There's something you need to see." He laid out a black mask, lightweight, sharp at the edges, marked with a silver crest, a serpent coiled around a blade. Livia froze. "What is that?" "The mark of the king's personal assassin," Calyren said. "The one they call Varric. He's here. I found this in the room above the tavern where he was last seen." Livia's fingers tightened around the dagger. "Why leave the mask?" "To let you know he's coming," Calyren said grimly. "It's a game to him." Rune groaned and sat up slowly. "Then we change the rules." Livia turned to him, her heart a tangled knot. "How?" He met her gaze, fierce despite the pain. "We stop running. We strike first." Rune's recovery was a storm, fast and full of rage. He refused rest, leaning heavily on Livia and Calyren as they planned their next move. There was no safety left in hiding. Varric's arrival meant the king was no longer content to wait. "He won't strike openly," Rune said, strapping on worn bracers beneath his coat. "Assassins like Varric thrive in silence. He'll choose a place we feel safest." Livia frowned. "Then we make a place seem safe and trap him there." Calyren raised an eyebrow. "You want to bait a king's assassin?" "I want to end this," Rune growled. "If he kills me, Livia dies next. If he kills her, I'm already dead. There's no retreat anymore." They chose the Lantern Market, a district filled with color, noise, and shadows, perfect for secrets and bloodshed. Livia hated the idea, but she agreed. "What do I do?" Rune's eyes softened. "Stay visible. You're the bait." "Then, I need a weapon," she replied firmly. Calyren handed her a thin-bladed dagger forged with a mage's sigil. "Silver steel. Cuts through enchantments." Livia tested its weight, then nodded. "Let's finish this." That night, under swaying lanterns and flickering firelight, she walked alone. Her cloak was open, her path predictable, and behind her, hidden in alleys and rooftops, waited Rune and Calyren. The assassin didn't come in silence. He came like smoke. One moment, nothing. The next, a blur across the stalls, a mask, a blade, and eyes colder than winter steel. Livia spun, dagger raised, just as Varric lunged. Their blades met with a hiss, sparks, pain. Then Rune dropped from above like lightning, his sword clashing against the assassins in a thunderous cry. The market scattered. Shouts rang out. Steel rang loud. Livia ducked, blood pounding in her ears. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a war for their future. The clash between Rune and Varric was ferocious. Two shadows locked in a dance of steel and fury beneath Calyren's glowing lanterns. The market, once vibrant with music and color, now rang with gasps and the cold, sharp rhythm of battle. Varric moved like water, his twin daggers a blur of silver arcs. Rune countered each strike with practiced grace, his blade singing against the metal. But Rune's injuries slowed him. his shoulder stiff, his ribs aching. Livia circled the fight, dagger in hand, heart pounding. She watched for an opening, terrified to strike but more terrified to lose him. Varric sneered, his voice a hiss. Still chasing fantasy, Rune? This woman will be your end. She's my truth, Rune spat, driving Varric back with a surge of will. Something you wouldn't understand. A dagger grazed Rune's side. Blood bloomed dark and fast. Livia cried out, "No." She lunged in, her blade flashing. Varric turned, almost lazy, but Livia's dagger nicked his arm, just enough to distract him. It was all Rune needed. With a roar, Rune swung his sword in a wide arc. Varric leapt back, but not fast enough. Rune's blade caught his side, tearing through leather and flesh. The assassin staggered, snarling. "I should have killed you when you were a boy." Varric hissed. "You tried," Rune growled, stepping forward. But suddenly, Varric threw a vial to the ground. Smoke exploded in a blinding cloud. Rune cursed, waving his sword through the haze. When the smoke cleared, Varric was gone. Livia rushed to Rune, helping him to his knees. "Are you okay?" He coughed, blood staining his lips. "He'll be back." She gripped his hand. "Then, we'll be ready." Calyren emerged from the shadows, face grim. "You wounded him. That'll slow him. But if the king sent him once," Rune nodded, "he'll send more." They had won the night, but the war still loomed. Morning came quietly to Calyren, the streets washed in golden light, the chaos of the night erased as if by magic. But within the safety of their rented room above a nondescript tavern, peace was fragile. Rune lay resting, bandages tight around his wounds. Livia sat by the window, quill in hand, eyes raw from sleepless hours. She stared at the parchment in front of her, the letter to Gavrin. She had rewritten it 3 times. This final version was the truth. Not the whole truth, perhaps, but enough. Gavrin, you gave me safety, kindness, and a name I wore with dignity. But I cannot pretend anymore. My heart has stepped beyond the lines we drew together. I never meant to hurt you, and yet I know I have. For that, I'm deeply sorry. I met someone who made me feel awake, alive. Not because you lacked anything, but because I lacked something inside myself. And I found it with him. If you ever think of me, let it be not with hatred, but understanding. I wish you peace, and I hope one day you find someone who gives you what I could not." Livia, she stared at the words, her hands trembling. Rune stirred behind her. "You don't have to send it," he murmured. "I do," she whispered. "He deserves the truth, or as close as I can offer." Rune sat up slowly, wincing. "Will he come after you?" Livia shook her head. "No, Gavrin is not that kind of man. He'll hurt. But he won't fight." She folded the letter and sealed it with wax, pressing it gently. Rune's gaze met hers. "You still care for him." "I do," she said. "But not the way I thought I did. And not enough to stay, in a life that felt like sleepwalking." Outside, the city woke, unaware of the storm it had survived. Inside, Livia let go of one life and braced for the next. Rune leaned against the wall, watching Livia move with purpose. Even in exhaustion, there was light in her, fierce and quiet, like a flame that refused to die. He'd always believed his past would catch him eventually, but he hadn't expected to care this much when it did. "You should rest," Livia said, crossing to him with a bowl of broth. "You lost more blood than you want to admit." He accepted it with a soft smile. "And you're giving orders now?" "I'm surviving," she replied, sitting beside him. "That's what we do now." Rune sipped the broth in silence. Then slowly he set it down. "There's something I need to tell you. About why I was really banished." Livia met his gaze. "Go on." "I wasn't just a prince who challenged tradition. I was engaged to marry a noblewoman from the house of Narrated. It was arranged, political. I refused." Livia blinked. "Why?" "She was cruel," he said, voice tight, power-hungry. "She wanted the throne more than she wanted a partner. I exposed her dealings with the Blackroot Syndicate, illegal magic trade, My father, he didn't believe me, said I was endangering the peace. And so he banished you? Livia's jaw tensed. He gave me a choice, Rune said. Exile or silence. I chose exile. Livia's hand found his. You did the right thing. Maybe, he whispered. But she's not finished. If she knows I've returned, she'll come. And she won't just want me gone. She'll come for anyone who stands beside me. Livia didn't flinch. Then let her. Rune frowned. You don't understand. I do, she said, eyes blazing. She can bring her magic and her armies. I've stood in the Shadow Realm. I've loved in it. I am not afraid. Rune stared at her in awe. He'd expected guilt or fear, but Livia Taryn had become something else entirely. A woman who would face the past for love. The sun had barely risen when the sound of hooves thundered across Calyren's eastern edge. Livia stood beside Rune at the old watchtower ruins. The town slept behind them. Before them, a small band of riders emerged, armored, cloaked in deep violet. At their center rode a woman in silver and black, her gaze sharp as obsidian. Rune tensed. That's her, Seralith of Narrated. She dismounted, with calculated grace. Prince Rune, she said, voice cold. You've been busy. I'm not going back, he said, shielding Livia slightly. Seralith's eyes flicked to Livia. And this is your distraction? The woman you risked exile for? She's the reason I became more than a coward hiding in realms, Rune said. Livia stepped forward. He won't return, and you'll leave the city now. Seralith smirked. You think I came to parley? I came to erase treason. Rune reached into his pocket and withdrew the last sliver of the dream key. Its glow pulsed, faintly. Seralith's eyes widened. You wouldn't? Livia raised her hand, and the shadows around them stirred, alive with power. The Shadow Realm hadn't abandoned them. It had waited. For her. She's bound to it, Rune whispered. She's its heart now. The sky darkened, stars bleeding through daylight. From the earth, mist rose in tendrils. A gate formed behind them, silver and black, thrumming with old magic. Go, Livia said to Seralith, or I'll drag you through it and let the realm show you your own soul. Seralith hesitated, sensing something ancient move in the air. Her knights shifted uneasily. With a sharp gesture, she turned. This isn't over. Her group vanished down the road, shadows swallowing their path. Rune turned to Livia. What was that? I don't know, she said softly. But I think the Shadow Realm chose us. Or maybe it chose me. They stared at the gate pulsing behind them. Rune's hand found hers. Are you ready? He asked. She nodded. Let's build a life. Not in hiding, but between realms. Ours. They stepped through together. On the other side, the Shadow Realm greeted them, not with danger, but with light. No longer twisted by secrets, it shimmered with hope. The mist parted. A home stood on a hill, waiting. Not fantasy, not escape, but possibility. And so Livia and Rune began again, not in Calyren, not in exile, but in the in-between, where love had awakened magic, where desire had rewritten fate, where a woman once torn between duty and passion had found a kingdom of her own.